The return of the king, the Comet, ladies and gentlemen, the finest tank of the Second World War. No arguments. This is about evolving and developing that way, and taking the things you know work and also the things you've tooled a factory for. After all, you know, this doesn't have a reversing beat, does it?
No, I don't think
so.
so.
That's not us, great. Hello there, I'm Al Murray and I'm here at the Tank Museum for WW2headquarters.com, and I'm here to tell you the story, the third act of this incredible drama about British armour. Yes, in Act 1 we looked at the Matilda II, not the world's snazziest tank, but perfect for the moment. Then of course the Phoenix from the Flames story of the Churchill tank. It starts out a dog, but it ends up a supreme fighting wolf. And then finally, the third act, when all our threads are drawn together in a beautiful conclusion, the return of the king, the Comet, ladies and gentlemen, the finest tank of the Second World War. No arguments. Yes. Join me as I look at this extraordinary piece of British technology, proof that the British can make a tank, they can actually deliver it, and when they do, the war's nearly ended. Let's not get hung up on that. Enjoy. Okay, so the Comet, like the astral phenomenon it's named after, is truly dazzling to behold. Look, this tank has got everything it could possibly want. A Christie suspension, but with these roller wheels at the top to keep the tracks clear. Slightly wider track than its predecessor, the Cromwell, which means this thing can get around. It can handle any terrain you throw at it. It's an amazing piece of kit. You've also got, inside here, a Meteor engine. So like it's a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. You love Spitfires, that means you love Comets. Simple as that. We work our way around, smoke dispensers at the back, again the wider tracks, and then join me as we tickle our way towards, oh yes, the main armament. This, it's not a 17-pounder, this gun that is what makes the Comet absolutely unstoppable on the battlefield, can deal with anything the Germans throw at it. And of course, it's well armoured, the crew are well protected, it can go nice and quick, 30 miles an hour or so. It's just got everything. It's got absolutely everything you could possibly want. And what it's got chiefly in it is it's got all the good bits of British tank design throughout the war, all the ingenuity that can go into coming up with a really great piece of battlefield technology, and also the experience of the crews, the commanders, and the engineers to produce this absolute pinnacle of British armoured engineering in the Second World War that leads directly to the greatest tank of all time, the Centurion, which this is the chicken that's laying the Centurion egg. So James, here we are sat, we're not quite atop the Comet, but this is a tank that has digested the lessons of tank development. It's a kind of souped up Cromwell, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Same running gear, same chassis.
Same engine.
Alterations.
Yeah.
But the gun is the thing that is radically revolutionary, different, and the turret ring with it, right?
Yes, so I mean basically to upgun the Cromwell you need a bigger turret ring.
Right.
So to do that, it sort of pushed out the upper hull, that was pushed out so you can get a bigger turret ring. But it fundamentally was never going to be big enough to take the 17-pounder. So despite what this one actually looks like, it's not a 17.
It's not a 17-pounder.
No.
It is, however, often confused, and very often in comments below videos.
Yes,
it's confused for a 17-pounder,
it gets rather violent conversations on the internet. It uses components from the 17, but it starts off life as an independent venture by Vickers,
right,
wanting to build a high-velocity 75.
Yeah.
Basically fulfills the same role. Then some bright spark comes along and goes, well, if you increase the caliber by 1.2 mil.
So bore it out.
Yeah, pretty much, to get to 76.2 millimeters, we can use the 17-pounder projectile.
The projectile.
Yeah, physically just the projectile, because the cartridge case is still far too big to try and wield that. So the cartridge case and the breech block comes from this 75mm high velocity program. Some say the cartridge case comes from a 3.7-inch anti-aircraft gun, because it's wider but shorter.
Yeah.
Whether that is the case or it actually still stems from the 75 program, not really too sure. But it still actually does have the 17-pounder muzzle brake because it's a part and it's available.
Right.
So it looks very much like a 17-pounder, but if you put them next to each other, this is far shorter.
Yes, it's much shorter.
And the rounds are, again, much, much shorter.
Right.
But actually at ranges that you're going to be dealing with, you only end up really with a drop-off of penetration over about 1,200 metres.
Right.
So the vast majority of the situations, with the vast majority of stuff you're dealing with, this is just as good.
But wait, why are people convinced this is a 17-pounder though?
I mean,
how's that happened?
It's potentially slightly our fault here at the museum. We've done it on a number of vehicles. Well, no, it's definitely one of these. And like Tog's gun, that's a 17-pounder. No, just very much not. That's the other scale of things.
Right.
That's bigger than a 17-pounder. That's a 28-pounder.
Oh, okay.
That's basically they do 3.7-inch anti-aircraft gun and
Yeah.
wrangle it slightly. But no, I think we've been guilty of calling this a
Okay, it's
a
interesting
17.
though, isn't it? Because around 75 mil, 3 inches seems to be like a bore that everyone falls on. Because the 17-pounder, although it's much more powerful, as you said, is 76.2, so kind of 3 inches. It's interesting that the things gravitate down to that, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, it's like small arms, everything. There's sort of a set caliber for a certain output. You know, the Panzer IV having a 75, for example, Sherman having a 75. Like, there's a reason for it.
It's a kind of sweet spot, for how you make the ballistics work and everything.
And just to mention on this gun, its caliber is 76.2,
right,
but they've called it 77mm for deconfliction. Because at one point in the British Army, we've got 76mm in service, we've got the 3-inch in service, we've got the 17-pounder, which is 76.2mm, we've then also got this one, and then we've got a 75.
I think I've got all that. Yeah,
Quartermaster is going to have a nightmare if everything's 76.2mm, but no, not that one. So we just call it 77 and be done with it.
Okay. Why does Comet only come to the part? Because it's they're training on it, aren't they, at the end of 44. It's delivered at the end of 44 and you get people switching wholesale to it. Why is it coming to theatre? I'm going to say the word late out loud. Why is it so late?
Again, you've got to look at Comet in any way. You have to go back to Cromwell. It gets derided and all of this, and I think it's very much an unsung vehicle for the British. Like, it is exceptional at its job.
I think it's a really great piece.
It is a good tank fundamentally. We start that program before we kind of even know Tiger exists. So it takes ages to actually come to fruition. So by the time we've worked out the kinks in Cromwell, we've got that to final specification, as it's called. That's then going out to the frontline troops and then to the front itself. They can then go, well, actually, we're going to need something with a bigger hole puncher in it. So we've got the Cromwell chassis. We've got that works. We've got the drivetrain, the Merritt Brown gearbox, the Meteor engine. That fundamentally works. Right? What can we do relatively cheaply to make this vehicle a bit better? Because it is a Cromwell, just a bit bigger. You strip away nearly everything, and the base dimensions on this hull, pretty much that of a Cromwell.
I mean, in a way, there are plenty of examples of this in the war, though, like a Spitfire Mark 1 and a Mark 24. They're completely different aeroplanes, but they're fundamentally at the core. They're the same thing. It's a similar kind of adaptation scale, right? Or the Sherman Michael, you know, in the museum, and an M4E8.
Well, you even go back to the Grants. On that, it's the same base vehicle.
Exactly. So what that shows actually is that you're evolving your designs rather than each time's a blank piece of paper.
Especially for the British cruiser programme. By the time we get A13's the first proper cruiser, Christie suspension, Crusader, that's an evolution of that. It's even using early on the same physical track. Same gun, etc. And then that evolves, and then we end up with the A27 programme, and I won't go into the details of that because we'd be here for
we haven't got time for that. We'll come back and make a special film about that at a later date.
But again, the evolution through that is very clear on well, actually that went that way, but we've tweaked it slightly and we've tweaked it this way, and you end up with this fundamentally. At the end
it's interesting, isn't it? Because the German way of doing things, you have the Panzer 1, Panzer 2, Panzer 3, Panzer 4. They aren't, each time they're like a kind of fresh start, fresh chassis. Whereas this is about evolving and developing that way, and taking the things you know work, and also the things you've tooled a factory for. After all, you know, this doesn't have a reversing beep, does it?
No, I don't think
so. That's
so.
not
No,
us. Great.
no.
So what it's not about is saying to a factory, okay, fine, but you've got to completely retool. You can carry on. Your lines of production continue through, and the fact it's got the most produced aero engine the British use
Just makes sense.
I mean, the only thing that feels faintly old-fashioned, if you want, on this is that you have a vertical plate here.
Yep.
But beyond that, the crew are really well protected, aren't they?
Yeah, that's 80mm frontal armour,
Right, okay.
which is Panzer IV territory, and that's perfectly fine by most people's estimations.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason we're really sticking with a flat plate on this is because of that gun. You
Yeah.
can't ball mount that,
No.
for whatever reason, and then we was forced. It would be such an imperative to keep a whole machine gunner that actually we kept the front flat plate.
That's your compromise, your risk versus
Yeah.
capability compromise. And also, this is the shape of the Cromwell. You're not altering that. You're sticking with what works, where it works.
And to crew retraining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very minor. You know, the driver's got a bit more weight behind him, but that's not really a big deal on that score. Again, same transmission, same engine. Your gunnery course is going to have to be slightly more improved, but the supply lines, the retraining pipelines, yes, in December 44, when the bulge kicked off, they had their shiny new Comets taken off because they weren't quite trained to maximum, dropped back into Cromwells and sent out to what should the British need to stem the advance. Yeah. But actually, they ended up getting them properly sort of February, March time, I think, the next year.
And did the crews like them?
Yeah, it's the best tank they've ever been in. You know,
Right.
Some of these guys have come from the desert. They fought in Crusaders for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You know, you get one of them in the morning, and it might start if it feels like it.
Yeah.
You're constantly outgunned by the Germans. You're out armoured as well with them. And by the time we've got this thing, we're engaging Tigers at combat range. Yes, it's not going to take a hit from an 88, 100%, but it's not designed to.
Well, and also you're not going to give it the chance, are you? Because
No.
you can do something about it.
Yeah, and we've got better reconnaissance assets and all this sort of stuff.
And
So
air and everything. Yeah.
one of the last actions of a Tiger in the Second World War was to get clapped from a Comet from the side.
Right.
I think it was 3 or 4 RTR.
Well, there we are. Good. Well, so I think we've conclusively made the case that this is the best tank of the Second World War.
Yes, absolutely.
And not only
100%.
that, it's an example of the British tank procurement development process that develops their fruit of which we have spoken.
And it's always worth putting into context. The Germans have a head start.
Yeah.
The French arguably have a head start because they're more focused on
land warfare.
Yeah, reasonably so. So we properly start kicking off in 38 in terms of tank programs, and then a few years later, we come out with this.
Well, we get Matilda right at the start of the war.
Not bad going.
With a couple of years after that, once Churchill's been ironed out, Churchill's ready to rumble, and then we close the war with this.
Yeah, Cromwell serves extremely well. Yeah. Then we get this to really top it off. Yeah. And then the pièce de résistance of British tank design, Centurion, misses the war by a little bit. But actually, that is a Second World War design. That is what British industry in that period can and does produce.
Yeah. So what we're saying here, James, in a roundabout way, I think it's fair to say, is that Britain is best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
Brilliant, thanks. Well,
10 out of 10.
That concludes our 3-act drama, looking at the history of British tank development here at the Tank Museum for WW2headquarters.com. James, thanks for your expertise and your. I mean, to be honest, it's nice to make a film with someone who makes an effort. Sartorial, isn't it? Honestly, to not be presenting from this tank with someone as scruffy as James Holland is really quite a breakthrough. Let's be honest now. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Cheerio. This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it. It's a monster, and you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in. Why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit.